Global famine is literally inevitable as 77.6% of the earth becomes more arid and the ground beneath our feet becomes more unstable. Michael Snyder reports, did you know that more than 3/4 of the land on the surface of our planet has been steadily getting drier? All over the world, forests are being ripped out, greenery is disappearing, and once vibrant soil is being degraded. Meanwhile, governments are monkeying around with the weather and conducting all sorts of secretive geoengineering experiments. As a result, we now have an unprecedented crisis on our hands. Approximately half of the population of Africa now lives on dry lands, and that continent is being plagued by endless famines right now. Unfortunately, much of the rest of the world is headed in the exact same direction. In particular, Europe, Brazil, and the western half of the United States are drying out at a very alarming rate. If current trends continue, global famine is literally inevitable. According to a report that was released by the UN Convention on Combat Desertification, 77.6% of the land on the surface of our planet is drier now than it was 30 years ago. 77.6% of Earth's land has become drier in the last 3 decades compared to the 30 years prior, with dry lands expanding by an area larger than India to cover 40.6% of the land on Earth, except for Antarctica. And the findings released in a new report by the UN Convention to Combat Desertification, UNCCD, warn that if the trend continues, up to 5 billion people could live in drylands by the century's end, causing soils to deplete, water resources to dwindle, and vital ecosystems to collapse. Needless to say, when land dries out, it can have a whole host of absolutely disastrous consequences. Indeed it is, according to the UNCCD, the transformation over the 3 studied decades is leading to loss of GDP, forced migration, increased mortality due to dust storms, worsening of wildfires, land erosion, vegetation degradation, salinization of water and soil, and more. They are telling us that 5 billion people will be living on dry lands by the end of this century, but there's no way that we will ever get to that point. Just look at what's happening in Africa. It is the driest continent by a wide margin, and people are constantly dropping dead from starvation, even though Africa is receiving mountains of food assistance from the rest of the world. So what's going to happen when most of the world is as dry as Africa is right now? The truth is that we're entering a time when we simply are not going to be able to feed everyone, and a lot of people are going to die. I honestly do not know what Europe is going to do during the years ahead. At this point, 95.9% of that continent is steadily drying. Europe is feeling the current burn especially acutely, with a whopping 95.9% of the continent experiencing drying. Also hard hit are Brazil, parts of the western US, the Mediterranean region, Central Africa, and Eastern Asia. Water, of course, is neither created nor destroyed, merely relocated. As 77.6% of the planet has grown drier, 22.4% has grown wetter, especially in the central US, Angola's Atlantic coast, and Southeast Asia, regions that have been seen increasingly powerful storms and flooding. But it's drying that is the dominant trend globally, and it's coming at a steep price. The Europeans like to brag that they are such wonderful environmentalists, but they have been ruthlessly ripping out their forests and grasslands. Of course, the exact same thing has been happening in Brazil. For example, in cocoa-producing regions like northeastern Brazil, deforestation to make room for agriculture disrupts local water cycles and exposes soils to degradation. Without vegetation to anchor it, topsoil, critical for plant growth, washes away during rainfall or is blown away by winds, taking with it vital nutrients. These changes create a vicious cycle. Degrading soils also hold less water and lead to more runoff, reducing the land's ability to recover. Chopping down millions of trees is an incredibly foolish thing to do. When you chop down millions of trees, the land dries and you lose valuable topsoil. Back during the Dust Bowl of the 1930s, our government actually planted 220 million trees in a desperate attempt to prevent topsoil from blowing away in the middle of the country. A drought is just temporary, but unless something dramatic is done, the aridity crisis that much of the world is facing will be permanent. For the first time, the aridity crisis has been documented with scientific clarity, revealing an existential threat affecting billions around the globe, Ibrahim Thiaw, UNCCD Executive Secretary, said in a statement. Droughts end. When an area's climate becomes drier, however, the ability to return to previous conditions is lost. The drier climates now affecting vast lands across the globe will not return to how they were, and this change is redefining life on Earth. Unfortunately, very few seem to be taking this threat seriously. With each passing day, more trees are being chopped down and more grasslands are being eliminated, so we continue our march toward disaster. According to one expert, billions face a future marked by hunger, displacement, and economic decline. Without concerted efforts, billions face a future marked by hunger, displacement, and economic decline, said Nicole Barger, chair of the UNCCD Science Policy Interface, in a statement. Of course, even if we could completely solve the aridity crisis, we would still be facing global famine because of the loss of nutrients in our soil, the killing off of our pollinators, and the trillions of microplastic particles that are saturating the ground that we grow our food in. Meanwhile, the Earth continues to become more unstable, and scientists have discovered that the inner core of our planet has actually been changing shape. Scientists who just months ago confirmed that Earth's inner core recently reversed its spin have a new revelation about our planet's deepest secrets. They identified changes to the inner core's shape. Earth's innermost layer is a hot, solid ball of metal surrounded by a liquid metal outer core. For decades, planetary scientists suspect that the solid inner core deformed over time as it spun. Now, researchers have found the first evidence of changes taking place over the past 20 years in the shape of the inner core. Signs of the core's deformation appeared in waves from earthquakes that were strong enough to reach Earth's center. The research team used that same earthquake data for a 2024 study to resolve a long-standing debate over the inner core's rotation. They found that the inner core once spun faster than Earth itself, but beginning around 2010, the solid inner core's spin slowed. It's now revolving backwards relative to the rest of the planet. Can you imagine? Should we be concerned that the Earth's core has slowed down dramatically and is now spinning backwards? I don't know. But I do know that we have been witnessing lots of very unusual seismic activity. For example, in recent days, the island of Santorini in the Aegean Sea of Greece has been shaken by more than 6,400 earthquakes. Santorini, one of the most popular tourist destinations in Greece, could soon be swamped by volcanic eruptions and tsunamis. The island has been rattled by 6,400 minor and moderate earthquakes this week. We're talking about 5.1, 5.3, sometimes only minutes between each quake. Meanwhile, a very strange earthquake was just reported near Area 51 in Nevada. An earthquake has hit a secret military testing base near Las Vegas after a gigantic tremor sparked tsunami concerns in the Caribbean. That was an 8 magnitude earthquake. The United States Geological Survey said there was a 2.8 magnitude shake near the highly classified Area 51 base in Nevada. The agency revealed the quake's epicenter was east of Amargosa Valley, around 50 miles from the United States Air Force facility, infamous for conspiracies concerning its connection with aliens and UFOs. The very alarming changes that are happening to our planet have been a major theme of my work for many years. Unfortunately, most of the population still has no idea what is taking place. What we are witnessing is not even close to normal. We're really living in apocalyptic times, and that won't change no matter how hard some people try to ignore the facts. This is by Michael Snyder on End of the American Dream. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. This is by Michael Snyder, and about the author. Michael Snyder's new book entitled Why is available on paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 8 other books that are available on Amazon, including Chaos, End Times, 70 Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and A Living Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work that he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News, and he's always freely and happily allowed others to republish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.